Hello, students. Today we are going to learn chapter 6 of microeconomics, that is non-competitive market. So in this section of microeconomics, we are going to learn about the different market forms and market structure. Many a times we ask that how many units does a producer want to produce, or how much does he or she wants to charge for each of the commodity which he is producing. So it all depends on the producer's market structure. So let's understand that what are market structure. When we talk about market structure, there are many forms or types of market like perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, duopoly, and monopoly. So let's have a look of them one by one. When we talk about perfect competition, perfect competition is a situation or market form where all the products are homogeneous in nature, which means all the products are identical. They are homogeneous in terms of shape, size, color, texture, prices, and sometimes even the name. So these products are homogeneous or identical, and there are many buyers and sellers in this form of market. And over here, the firms, they do not have the control over the prices. So we can say that they are price takers. Now, they are price takers because they alone cannot determine the prices of their product in the market. The reason is there are many substitutes which are available in the economy. So if any of the seller tries to charge more, then the consumer may get diverted to the other products. And if they charge less, again, they would have problem. So usually they are price takers, which means the prices are determined on the basis of forces of demand and supply. The another feature of perfect competition is that there are there is free entry and exit, which means the seller and buyers can enter and exit the market at their will. Let's say, for example, that if X person is producing ABC commodity and he's earning huge profit. Now, seeing this, Y feels that even he wants to start selling the same product so that even he can earn more profit. And he starts entering into that market and starts selling that product. So there is free entry. At the same time, if let's say another example, if he feels that now he is no longer earning profit, which he should be, he can exit the market. So, as such, there are no barriers for entry and exit into this kind of market. So, we can say that in case of perfect competition, there are many buyers and sellers, and each firm or the consumer has perfect knowledge about the product, and they do not have the control over the price, due to which they are price taker, and there are no barriers for entry and exit, which means that anyone can easily engage into this kind of business. Now, when we talk about monopoly, monopoly means there is a single seller and many buyers. So over here, there are no substitutes which are available. And monopolist alone is the firm which is producing or selling that commodity. So he will have the full control over the price, which means he is a price maker instead of being a price taker. So monopolist over here is a price maker, and there are no substitutes available into the market, which means that he can charge different prices from different consumers, which shows that there may be price discrimination. And there are barriers in entry and exit. The barriers could be either legal barriers or due to the barrier of finance or investment. Like the example of monopoly in India is railways. So in this case, there is an entry and exit barrier. Any firm who wishes to enter into the market of railway, they cannot do so because it would require legal formalities. So This was the example for monopoly, and it is very difficult to begin producing this product. Now talking about monopolistic competition. This is very much similar to perfect competition, but it differs in few places. Like in case of monopolistic competition, there are large number of buyers and sellers. But over here, the product is heterogeneous, which means they belong to the same product category. Like let's say, for example, toothpaste or soap or washing powder. Now they all belong to same category, but there are different brands which are available. Like in toothpaste, we can have Pepsodent, we can have Colgate, we can have Dabur, we can have Meswak. So this way, the product category is the same, but the product is different in terms of size, shape, color, packaging, labeling, branding, name, and pricing also. So we can say that in case of monopolistic competition, the product is heterogeneous. Over here also, both producer and consumer have perfect knowledge about the product. Same way, like let's say you want to buy a phone, but you don't have information, which is not possible because all of us know the features of every phone, that how much RAM does it have, how much camera pixel does it have. So all these information would help us to decide the product which one to buy. So all these informations are known to buyer, as well as even the seller is well known to the market situation as to what is the demand and taste and preference of the consumer. Over here in this kind of monopolistic competition, there is a non-price competition. The substitutes are available in the market, but they cannot compete with each other on the basis of price. But non-price competition exists, which means every substitute or every competitor would try to sell their product into the market or push their product into the market by giving them offers or free gifts, etc. And over here in monopolistic competition also, there is free entry and exit. Now talking about another one, that is oligopoly. Now oligopoly is a situation wherein there are few sellers and many buyers. Example of oligopoly could be automobile or any heavy industries like automobile industries or iron and steel industry, wherein the sellers are very few but buyers are more. When we talk about oligopoly, the prices are fixed again not only on the basis of forces of demand and supply, but they are interdependent, which means that the firm, before setting its prices, they will have to see that what the competitor has set. So the firm will have to consider the prices of the competitive product and accordingly fix the prices. And of course, here also there are barriers to entry because the investment in such kind of industries or firm is huge. Here we can see the examples of all the types of market, that is perfect competition, monopolistic, oligopoly, and monopoly. So as I have explained you the features, there are large numbers in perfect competition, large number of buyers and sellers, price takers, there are no barriers, and producers face a horizontal demand curve. We can see the examples. So a perfectly competitive producer faces a horizontal or that is perfectly elastic demand curve. Like when we talk about the wheat market, which is perfectly competitive, producer can sell as much or as little as they want, but they must sell it at the prices determined by the market. And if they ask a higher price, no one will buy it. So wheat is sold on a global market. It is a homogeneous product. Individual farmers have little impact on the total quantity sold and prices are determined by the commodity traders. So we can see over here demand curve, which is downward sloping, supply curve, which is upward sloping, and the intersect point is equilibrium point. So connecting this dot, it gives us the demand curve that the individual farmer faces. And we can see that it is perfectly elastic. Let's take an example. Joe is perfectly competitive industry. He is a price taker. Joe is one of many firms, and the product is standard, and there are little to no barriers to entry. Now you can compete with Joe at any time. All you need to do is dig up some land, fill it full of water, and stock it. So this is the Joe's demand schedule, example of demand schedule, that at every different prices, the quantity demanded is changing. So with the increase in price, the demand will decrease, and with decrease in price, the demand will increase. So when we talk about the revenue of Joe, wherein we have taken the example, now total revenue is increasing and it would be a upward sloping curve, but after a certain point, it is declining. Now, total revenue can never be in negative because no firm would like to survive into the market with the loss. So the total revenue curve is upward sloping and then it might start declining. Whereas when we talk about average revenue or marginal revenue, in this case, let's say, for example, in over here, we have our total revenue curve and the marginal revenue curve will be downward and then it will start moving into negative with every additional production of unit or with every additional unit sold after a certain level of point. So this we already saw that it is perfectly elastic. Now a producer could maximize revenue by producing as many units as possible, right? So we can say that total revenue is nothing but price into quantity. But that is not the producer's goal. Producer wants to maximize profit. So how many units does a perfectly competitive producer want to make? We are finally arriving at the question as to how many units he would want to produce and how much does he or she wants to charge for each one. So a producer should continue to expand its output or should continue production as long as his marginal revenue is greater than his cost. So as long as your MR, that is marginal revenue, is greater than marginal cost, he can produce the commodity. And the producer in a perfectly competitive industry will maximize the profit by producing where your marginal revenue is equal to your marginal cost. So we can see this in the table that Jio should not produce a 10th unit because in that case, your revenue is $131 and your cost is 150. So over here, your cost is more than your income, which is a negative situation. So this unit costs Jio more to make than he will earn in revenue. So to see the profit maximizing output graphically, we need to add some data. And here we have added average total cost data. And what is average total cost? It is total cost upon total output. So we can see that MR, that is marginal revenue over here, is greater than your marginal cost for each of the first 8 units. They intersect around the 9th unit. This means that Joe's profit maximizing rate of output is 9 units. At that rate of output, Joe's average total cost per unit is around $98. So we know the price is 131. It was set by the market. Now Joe either takes it or leaves it. So therefore, he will earn a profit of about $33 per unit for total of $299. So graphically, if we talk about it, his profit in this area, which we will call the profit box, which is highlighted with yellow color. So that is the key learning outcome. We'll spend a lot of time on the idea as we explore in perfect competitive market. This is the same curve where the marginal cost is cutting your average total cost and your MR. Now, any producer who wants to maximize the profit. So if I only produce 8 units, I forego some profit. If I produce 10 units, then the last on the cost me would be more than I'm earning. So I'll stop producing at 9 units because at 10 units, I'll be at loss. This is again the recap of production decision, or we can say that short run production decision for perfectly competitive market, wherein you will try to see to it that your MR is equal to MC, or your marginal revenue is greater than your marginal cost. Because if your marginal revenue is greater than your marginal cost, then there would be increase in the output rate. And if your MR is less than MC, then there would be decrease in the output rate. So this method of determining profit or maximizing output for a perfectly competitive firm is called MRMC approach. So to conclude, we can say that perfectly competitive industries have certain characteristics. There are many buyers and sellers. The product is homogeneous. Both buyers and sellers have perfect knowledge about the firm. They are the price takers, and they like all the business people are seeking to maximize the profit over here. And the last one is your marginal revenue should be equal to your marginal cost. Thank you.